Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
What's Gucci, my man?
Never know where you're going to go with it.
Yeah, you know. Hey, it's.
I always like when you start as if you really have something to say, and then you've got nothing.
It's because I have all the cadence of regular conversation.
Yeah. You know what? Because I don't. Yep.
I don't remember. We're in our 6th year. I think it's fine for me to mix it up.
Okay. What's mixing it up right now?
Oh, that I just don't say hello.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you've never really just said hello.
I did for years.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess you really are mixing it up now. This is a real season 7.
Hey, listen, you either introduce a new character.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've tried.
Or you start
We tried to kill me off and it didn't work.
Yeah, I don't know that I was trying. If anything, I was trying the opposite of that.
Yeah. You were
desperately hanging on.
Yeah, I tried to kill me off, and
I won't let you go.
The audience really, the audience was cool with it.
The audience was fine. I wasn't.
Yeah. The audience was like, "This is the show we wanted," which was like 2 people who knew about comics talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we have one guy who has the cadence of somebody who knows everything. And
hey, you know,
and cadence is 9/10 of the law.
9/10 of the pie.
Yeah. And someone who's here.
Yeah.
Speaking of, each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
Man, really keep bisecting that intro.
I'm going for a real blank check sort of vibe. Yeah.
Right. How far in can we get?
Yeah. Before you introduce the show. Yeah. Well, we got a 5-star review.
Oh my God.
You don't have to feign interest.
I'm interested. Whatever, just read this fucking thing.
Yeah, whatever. Another one loves us. Ugh, give me more awards.
God, yeah. Give me awards.
Yeah, what are we trying to get this year?
Probably arts again, I think.
Yeah, we can go back.
Yeah, we can go back. It's been 2 years.
Oh,
you just can't win the same one 2 years in a row.
Is that fair for us though to go back in?
It's not fair for everyone else.
Yeah, that's right.
It's fair for us.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
5-star review.
If we lose, I'll be devastated.
Yeah.
I'm riding too high.
Yeah,
now.
it's true. Yeah. 5-star review number 207 from Apple Podcasts Canada from Tiamat Dragon.
Okay.
Who go on with the subject "The Doctor."
Ooh.
They go on to say,
I know that had the cadence.
Yeah. You keep bringing the cadence and none of the follow through. Ooh, interesting.
That's also true of how I have sex.
Yeah. You show up as if you're gonna.
I have
produce.
the cadence of sex.
Yeah. But none of the follow through. What's the thing the other day we were saying, which is like, I can't remember. I think it was Ghostfacers. Never mind.
Oh, sorry. Now are we trying to keep these separate?
Personally, no Dr. DC in real life.
Huh.
Marvel fan here.
So who is this?
Marvel fan here, but I have also always liked DC, but only have so much money to give comics. So it's great to hear and learn about the DC universe from someone so knowledgeable and just genuinely great people. They must not know us.
They're going only off knowing us and they've never listened.
Keep it up, boys. I know. I was trying to figure this out. I was like,
who is this?
The only person I could possibly think it is somebody from this town.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
But then it's only really 2 people that it could have been that I can imagine. Who
are you thinking of? Just mouth it. Who are you thinking of?
Either.
Oh.
Or.
That one seems less likely.
Right?
Interesting.
I can't imagine he listens.
Yeah, what if it's
or
one of several ministers in government?
Oh yeah. Oh god. Oh no.
I would love to know which minister's Apple ID is
Tiamat Dragon, right?
Oh man. But my day job, I'm the Minister of Economic Development. But at night, when I'm listening to podcasts, I'm Tiamat Dragon, baby. Hell yeah.
You're gonna grind on the Egyptian pyramid.
Hell yeah.
Gotta listen to both pods.
Well, thank you for the review.
Yes, Tiamat.
Also, reveal yourself.
But also the subject, the doctor, which means it's like, yeah. I mean, it's somebody who knows you but doesn't know me.
Well, that's what they even say. They personally know me.
Yeah. So who knows you and doesn't know me?
Well, maybe it's not someone in town.
Oh.
Maybe it's someone out of town. The other option.
Yeah, but then doesn't know me, that also listens. And
I have a life outside of you.
Come on, man.
I mean, it's decreasing.
Yeah.
But I do technically still have it.
That's only just because you're expanding into it.
Fuck you. I'll expand into you.
Oh my God, yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, thumb it in and wait for it.
Call me Mia.
No, wrong podcast. Also, everyone here is going to think that you're talking about Mia Toretto now.
Oh.
Cross-pollinating too much.
Oh my God, that's right. You can have any beer you want.
Oh, sub Toretto. Oh, man. Well, thank you for the review and reveal yourself.
Yeah. Reveal yourself.
Did I just hear that?
No, I went.
Oh. I thought someone was rapidly knocking on the door. Oh. I thought we were getting swatted. They knock, right?
Yeah, that's typical of SWAT.
Famously.
Yeah. Can we come in?
Hello.
Hello, Subtoretto.
Yeah, well, that's the SWAT team up here is all vampires, so you actually do have to let them
Oh,
in.
that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Bad career for vampires.
Yeah, tough for half the year too with the midnight sun.
But then also great.
Great in the winter.
Yeah.
A lot of arrests.
30 Days of Night.
A lot of arrests in the winter.
Scary movie.
30 Days of Night.
Yeah.
I know I've seen that. Yeah,
it's scary.
I rewatched 28 Days Later because they did it just a few weeks ago on Blank Check.
Blank Check. Yeah.
That movie truly looks like it was filmed on a cauliflower.
Oh yeah.
It's so fucking
It's the
low.
first video movie,
so
like
low res.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so
Yeah.
grainy.
It is.
It looks
like
it
shit.
looks like shit.
Yeah,
Great.
intentionally, but
Well, I mean, a little intentionally, but also just like it looks like shit.
yeah.
Great movie though.
Well, speaking of reading things, like there was a review, we read some comics this week.
Prescribed Reid-ing Month continues.
It continues.
And the book that you selected for this week is
Vigilante, number 17 and 18.
Yeah, this is a story called Father's Day. This is
a thing I knew what it was about for sure and didn't feel bad about reading it.
Written by Alan Moore.
Yep, sure was fucking written by Alan Moore.
Drawn by Jim Bakey.
Yeah.
Or Bikey. I'm not sure if it's like a different pronunciation.
Bakey.
Yeah, so this is from it's from like the longish running. I think it went like 50 issues or something. Vigilante solo series from this is the 80s, I'm pretty sure. Let's have a look here. Yeah, 1985. Yeah, from the 80s. So this is Adrian Chase, the Vigilante.
Oh my God, was he also Aquaman?
No, you're confusing.
Oh, Adrian
Grenier, who played
Vincent
Vinny Chase.
Okay, yeah. Okay, now I see what I did there. Wow. God. What the fuck?
Vince is doing the movie.
Yeah.
I am Queens Boulevard.
That's right.
Yeah. So this story very generally is basically it's about this very bad man gets out of prison on parole.
Yep.
And he comes back for his family.
Yep.
And bad things happen. Do you want to like walk through this? I assume you didn't read this before having to read it for this.
I did not.
Like you didn't read it in the selection process. Is what I mean.
No. I was looking up like the thing is what I typically do is I go like, what do I have? And then of what I have, what is notable?
Sure.
And then I sort of like will go, okay, I probably haven't read this. Let's see what it is.
Sure.
It sure is notable.
Do you want to go through it?
Yeah. Oh God. So this guy shows up at his ex-wife's house, I guess, or maybe current.
Yeah.
With a very creepy daddy's home. Very aggressively goes to get his kid, and.
She like tries to bar the door.
Yeah.
She makes the kid go out down the fire escape.
Yeah.
She tries to defend herself with a knife, and he immediately disarms her, and there's a sort of, we don't see the violence happen, but he kills her.
Yeah.
The kid gets taken in
by like 2 sex workers, I think. I don't know if they both
one
are.
of them for sure is a sex
They
worker.
don't confirm if the other one is.
I'm not sure about the other one.
Based on the like vibe they were giving out, but
they might both be. But and brought back to their apartment, they want to contact DA Adrian Chase.
That's right.
But they can't because their apartment is full of drugs.
And so
they try to just set up a meet.
Yeah.
To be like the girl's fine, but like there's nowhere for her to go, whatever kind of thing.
But they're like, you need to get here because something bad's gonna happen.
Totally. Adrian Chase shows up as the vigilante because no one sets up a meet for a kid without it being bad.
Yeah.
And after a sort of like mistaken identity, are you the bad guys thing here? They realize that.
Let's talk about that meetup because it's very like.
Vigilante
gets his ass beat.
He does. But we'll get into it. But the girl stays in the apartment. The one woman goes to the meet and eventually goes like, "I'll bring you there." Once they get through the bullshit thing, she goes, "I'll bring you there." In the meantime, the
ex-husband.
The ex-husband is trying to find the girl, and he sees the sex worker at the grocery store who's buying cereal for this kid, and he's like, "There's only one person in the world that eats this kind of cereal." And he follows the sex worker home, and then by the time Vigilante gets there, she's all beaten up. She's not quite dead yet, but she does die. And he's taking the kid.
Yeah.
And then, like, the most fucked up part is they try and chase them down, try and, like, save the kid. And the kid is, like on the dad's side.
God.
Like a kind of like Stockholm Syndrome-y kind of thing a little bit. Where the kid shoots Vigilante because he's trying to go after
her dad.
It's messed up.
But then the woman hits the guy with the cart and then like slowly runs over his body.
She hits him once and then pulls up slow, and she locks the back wheels and then like shreds him with the front wheels.
Fucking intense.
And then she's like, "Did I do the right thing?" And Vigilante's like, "Am I doing the right thing?" And the kid is like, "I hate you." And they're like, "Did we do the right thing?"
Yep.
And that's like a very broad strokes. That's the story across 2 issues.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucked up. Let's talk about some moments, some things in this story, themes, dialogue, anything. What's some stuff that you
Can I ask you first,
about?
Did you like this?
I think it's a well done story. I don't think it's enjoyable because it's like the material is so heavy.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very well done story, actually. Like, especially because you picked it. I was like, Richard picked an Alan Moore thing. I was like, is he just deliberately picking like some of the worst aged examples of it? And actually, like, listen, is some of it a little gratuitous? Probably. But as far as a story, like, it's a pretty well executed story. It's very difficult subject matter, and I'm willing to bet that some of the ideas he's dealing with are not dealt with in probably the best way. But compared to some other Moore work, this actually feels like a relatively like incisive look at like vigilantism and and crime and redemption and whether that's possible and all of those kind of things. Like, I actually think it's a pretty well done story. I think I like it. It's just not fun at all.
I was trying to wrap my head around what the perspective of Moore was with the sex worker. I think I was struggling to see.
Right. Oh, sorry, you mean like the one that's the confirmed sex worker?
Yes. Just in the subject matter. Like,
I mean, she's definitely expendable, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because
they don't like, and that's part of the thing was like, it's like you kind of make the other one a hero, but never actually say she's a sex worker as well, which feels intentional.
I just don't know. I just don't know why she's a sex worker.
Yeah.
Other than they're a little reluctant to take in the kid. Their apartment's full of drugs, and her work is not conducive to it.
Yeah.
But they end up taking in the kid anyway. Like, I don't really see what the point of that specific detail is.
The only thing I could think of,
other than it sort of establishes their like weird distance to the authorities, like why they try and do the random meetup.
My guess is based on the fact that it's like the time period.
Yeah.
Which was like, when did it come out? It was
85.
Yeah, 85. So it's like two women who are outside who are living together at the like an age that they are, like in a dangerous part of town.
Yeah, yeah.
My guess is, and then have an aversion to authority.
Right.
It's the easier thing to write.
Yeah, maybe it's just like a lazy choice.
That's sort of my perspective, because they don't really use like. There's a really good opportunity to have this conversation when they start talking about vigilantism and like policing and authority, and it's like they have a really great opportunity. They sort of just focus on like the drug piece, but never about the sex work.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's why I'm like, why is she? Because they don't examine it from that perspective.
Yeah,
like
which I think is a more interesting.
And they also don't use it as like. Not that this is what sex work's about either. This would also be reductive, but they also don't use it as a window into like the trauma of the kid.
Yes.
Because the kid, we've been dancing around it, but like the dad sexually assaulted her when she's 8, I think. When 11, she was 8. Well, she's 11 now. He's out of prison. But when she was 8, he did that.
They don't draw any, like I kept feeling like, I'm like, oh, are they drawing a correlation? Because there's this whole thing where it's like, the dad is writing to the daughter throughout the entire book, and you see little glimpses of that, of like a thing he was writing while he was in jail.
Yeah.
And I was like,
just in the second issue, I think.
Maybe
that's the narrative piece of Vigilante 18. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. But I was like, oh, maybe this is actually like written to the other woman or something. And I was like, maybe that's what this is about. And it's like, no, it's not. Like there were so many opportunities to be able to like draw these correlations, and it's like,
it's especially weird that we don't use that to maybe explore any of that a bit more, but we do spend, like you say, a significant amount of narrative time in 18 being like, this sex offender dad's not all bad.
Yes.
Like, it's interesting because on one hand, this book is like, he's absolutely irredeemably evil.
Yeah.
He like cold kills the mom. He kills this sex worker. Like he's not.
He kills a gun shop owner.
He kills
a
gun shop owner. Like he's violent. He's obviously evil and bad. The book doesn't shy away from that. But then to have this narrative thing of like, I
just miss my daughter.
I do think it's interesting to show the delusion he's under.
But they don't play it into that. Like
I just wonder if there's a way to more clearly
illustrate that's
to more clearly illustrate that it is a delusion.
Yes,
that his like view of himself is a delusion. I mean, maybe it is clear because we see him do all these bad things, but something about it doesn't feel 100% like
it doesn't
like
show what the
in.
writer's perspective of that is, and I think that's the problem to me.
Maybe that's what it is.
They're just presenting two things and then not drawing any like delineation with the writing, and I'm like, well, okay, but like, what do you think this means? And I'm like, art is up to the people, but no, this is not a thing that you.
I don't think that it's. I don't think that this is as much of an indictment of Moore as a lot of other works that deal with tough subject matter. Works of his. But there is this kind of like weird thing where it's like he's possibly maybe giving the readership too much credit.
Yes.
To like parse it out.
Yeah.
I feel like writers like Gaiman or like handle this stuff a little more deftly than Moore. But yeah, man. And like this guy's like he's a real piece of shit. Yeah, he kills that gun shop owner. For no reason. He's like, he goes in, he's like, I need a gun. The guy's like, which one? He's like, that one. Smash. It's like, you could have just paid for it.
Yeah. It's weird to show all this gratuitous violence for not like.
Because in that case, now it's just like, so he's just like generically crazy or something, instead of it being that he's like a woman hater. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Like, where is this?
If the gun shop owner was a woman and he acted that way, there's maybe a stronger narrative choice, even though that's, we're frigid women all over this. But when he does that to like the dude for basically no reason, I don't know. It feels weird. It's like, what are we trying to say at this point? Because it feels like this guy should have like all that kind of like the resentment of women thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's informed all of his
Yeah,
relationships.
but it doesn't.
And with this guy, it should be like the one person that gets away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is like this dude or something. But maybe I'm overthinking that one. But
I think it's fair to my big problem with Moore in general is that he presents these extreme things but doesn't actually try to say anything about them, and I think that's my problem. It's like, if you're going to use extreme imagery and storytelling, then you has to be for a purpose rather than just shock, and I think that he uses it just to like make things more dramatic, and I think that's cheap writing.
Here's what I'll say just as counterpoint to that.
Yeah.
I think that some of what he's saying in this book does land, but it's not the stuff about the sexual assault and the father-daughter relationship or anything. That stuff doesn't land. The stuff that lands is all the stuff between Vigilante and the main female character.
The conversation about like authority and like about like,
I've just got to remember her name. Her name is Fever.
Yes. The conversation about policing and authority and like vigilantism.
Yeah,
and
where does his like authority
superheroes
come from, and like what help is he actually, and like
what's the difference between him and a cop?
And
like
him coming in like guns blazing, like at that meetup or whatever. It's like things are more complicated. Like it's more gray than black and white and all this kind of stuff, where he's like he doesn't even want to let them off on the drug thing, drugs in their house, where it's like there's bigger fish to fry, man, you know. Like, so I think that stuff actually does land. And you know, we have that ending where she, you know, the Vigilante book in general examines this a lot, so it's beyond just Moore, but the idea of like, what is he inspiring?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like his brand of justice is different from what Batman does. Is different from what Superman does. Is different from what the Flash
does. He comes in
does.
with a gun.
And what he's inspiring is kind of ugly. You know, so when she she doesn't just hit him with the car and save the day. She hits him with the car and then like makes him like pay.
Yeah.
With the wheels and like kills him.
Which is really vigilantism.
Which is vigilantism. And even Vigilante is like, oh shit.
Yeah, what's the difference between shooting somebody and doing this? Like one's just slightly more violent, but like,
you know, like I think that stuff really lands well. The stuff that doesn't is all of the sexual violence. It's like the piece that, to your point, it's like, well, that's shocking and horrible and maybe puts people in the position
justifying this like
make
violent act,
extreme, you know, violent choices. But like he doesn't understand it enough or doesn't explore it enough to make it feel like it has any weight of its own. It's only there to propel the vigilantism theme, which is in a way like
it's fridging.
It's fridging, but like on a thematic level.
Yeah.
Where like you're taking the sexual violence and it's only for the context of the vigilantism story, not to explore the complicated, you know, like what is this guy's history with women? Like, how do you deal with something like that where like this guy has served time and there's clearly like recidivism at play? Like some people go to prison and can reform and they earn their second shot. Some people get out too early and they clearly have not earned the second shot. Like, but we're not exploring.
We're not
exploring that. We're not exploring the psychology. We're not exploring any of that kind of stuff. It's just there to put Fever and Vig in the position.
Yes, it feels like
take drastic action.
Like, why present the daughter's like at the end, like defending her father? Why present the concept of that he's like feels guilty in prison or something and like why present those things for no reason?
It feels like they need more runway. Like I know this is just a 2-issue kind of guest stint that Moore comes in.
They don't. You could remove those elements and they would.
But if you only have 2 issues, like you have to explore those things. Like, and it's not to exonerate the dad, giving more room to justify what he did. But it's actually to do the opposite. Right now, it almost feels like an exoneration because there's not the room to explore how psychotic he is.
1,000%.
You know, and for the kid, you know, like it's not. I don't think it's an outrageous narrative choice to have this kind of turn, but it is in 2 issues when her mom's been just murdered. And, you know, and the person that was looking after her was murdered.
Yeah.
And then she's like, we need more time.
Yes.
To explore. Like, there's something narratively interesting possibly even true or psychologically
but you
interesting.
can't just put it in there and expect people to draw the connections.
It feels really like just thrown in.
Yeah.
Whereas the stuff with Vig and Fever is very fleshed out.
Yeah.
And so, that contrast I think is where this still feels problematic. Though again, I should reiterate, this feels like a lot more in control of that shit than like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen or even fucking Watchmen. Yeah. I mean, Watchmen gets more room to explore all of that shit, and what do you know? It's a little bit more complicated. There's more layers to. I think still thrown in like kind of helters, like willy-nilly or whatever. But like we explore the implications of sexual assault, and like in Watchmen, the big kind of like complication there is that this amazing person exists now because of this violent relationship. You know what I mean? And that's the Dr. Manhattan like Watchmen gives it a moment where he goes like all the hate, all the horrible decisions, all the things, and like but you came out of it. Yeah, that's the miracle, the quantum miracle that makes him believe in humanity again. You can argue whether or not that's still problematic. It maybe is, but Watchmen gives room for all of these characters to have their own perspectives on it. Yeah. We see how Laurie feels about her mother being like assaulted. We see how her mother feels about it. We see what it does to the comedian. We see all of these like different things, and it's not necessarily an exoneration. But in this, there's no time paid to it. It's just in there, and then we never pick up on it. In a way, it kind of works if you're only in the position of Vigilante, where you're not seeing all of it, and you just go like, well, what the fuck? Yeah. But I don't feel like narratively it pulls all that off.
The problem with Moore is that if all you have is a fucking hammer, everything's a goddamn nail. And it's like he wants to put he wants to put this level of gravitas into every size of a book, which doesn't always work. Not all of his ideas are great, and he fucking has one like set of things that he uses, and he puts it into everything. And it's like sometimes your ideas are great, but like why do you have to fucking fill it full of all of the same shit? And it just like it drives me crazy.
Yeah, and
like there's elements of this writing here that was from Watchmen.
I don't think he's wrong for the like the violence of it, but it's just how flippant some of the sexual violence stuff is. I think.
Understatement of the century.
It's 85. Watchmen is coming out this year too. Yeah. But
understatement of the century, but like Moore needs fucking therapy.
Well, I think even he has acknowledged that to a certain extent. Yeah. Not the therapy thing specifically, but like that stuff of his has not aged well or things like that. But
so what are you fucking ranking? What are you giving this?
For all of its faults, which are evident and there, I still think it's like an interesting read.
Sure.
I don't hate, and I mean, it's not fun, it's not enjoyable, but I don't hate reading it the way I hate reading League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is kind of like my low watermark for Moore. Yeah. I think I'd give this like 3.5 capes. I think it's treading on interesting things, but I think they only work in the context of the broader Vigilante series.
Sure.
I don't know in just 2 issues that they work that well.
Sure.
If you treat it like just as a story, that's why it's kind of shaky.
Yeah.
Some of them, I think, benefit from the context of the whole series.
Yeah.
The theme of like the vigilantism thing that keeps coming up. What about you?
2.75.
Sure. Fair.
Yeah,
fair.
So as someone who's only read these 2.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Well, time to get into the questions.
I sure hope they're fun.
They actually don't delve that much into this.
No, they don't, which is fine.
Yeah. We talk a lot about Vigilante.
Yeah.
So let's get into those questions.
It's the cadence, baby.
All right, let's start at Twitter.
That's Twitter.
Did you forget to grab questions, or was there no questions?
Let me check.
Let me just take a little look-sees, babies.
I don't know why you would think I'd forget.
Yeah, that's never happened before.
It's never happened before.
So
no, we're good. The only comment we got was from Ranger Gordon said, "Yeehaw!" No, wait, wrong vigilante. Never mind.
Nice.
So,
first question from Twitter comes from Nightwing Enjoyer, who asks, "Yeah, great name.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say
a mistranslated toy package.
Yeah. Who asks, is there a place for vigilante in the Nightwing Enjoyer is the name of Starfire?
Star Sapphire.
Yeah. That's her like mispackaged name.
Nightwing Enjoyer.
That's her wish.com like costume or whatever.
Nightwing Enjoyer. I like that.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
Is there a place for vigilante in the DC landscape of today? Whether Adrian comes back from the dead, Dorian returns, or we continue the story of Donald Fairchild from Southland. I liked Dorian as an antagonist to Nightwing.
Yeah, so first of all, there have been lots of characters called Vigilante. And just
it's a pretty like fucking vanilla ass name for a superhero.
I mean, a very broad name, right? Yeah. Part of the thing with Vigilante, even through the series, is that he tries to kind of retire or give it up a few times, and other people take it up. And he has to keep coming back because they're all fucking lunatics.
Oh, no.
And it's like, and really, this series so much is like him trying to reckon with what he's done.
Sure.
And what he's unleashed, what he's inspired. And Adrian Chase ultimately kills himself.
Jesus.
So that's how that happens. Later, in a Nightwing story, you get Dorian Chase, who is Adrian Chase's brother.
Okay.
Becomes Vigilante. But there's like 3 or 4 Vigilantes in between that. There's a new one, in the Rebirth era, 2016 or 2017, from a book called Vigilante Southland Files or Southland Tales or something like that. And his name is not Donald Sutherland.
It was Donald Fairchild.
Yeah, Fairchild. There we go. Thank you.
Because Southland.
Yeah.
I get how you got there.
That's where I got confused. Yeah. But I haven't really read that, so I don't know too much about that character. Do I think there's a place for Vigilante? Yes, with the big asterisk of it has to be examining those things.
Yeah, with a name like Vigilante, you have to have that discussion.
You need a critical eye on it. Here's the thing. There are lots of Moore interviews where he goes like, people read Watchmen and love Watchmen, but the problem is that they didn't pick up on
They take the wrong thing
They
from
didn't
it.
pick up on any of the satire or irony or whatever. Yeah. Now, maybe this goes back to our note that maybe it's not layered on enough.
And I think that's a big problem with...
You're treating your audience to be a little smarter than they are.
Yeah,
because Moore's big surprise takeaway is like people coming up to him being like, I love Rorschach. Rorschach is me. And him going like, well, you're a psycho.
Yeah.
And it's like, well... like Rorschach is objectively psychotic in that book, but he's also the fucking hero.
It's the thing that makes fucking the TV show, the Damon Lindelof show, so good.
Yeah, but like Moore, he's not talking about that stuff in that book. Like read Watchmen. Like everyone knows Rorschach is a psycho.
Yeah.
Objectively. And the whole book is about like in a more realistic world, these are the kind of psychos that would be your superheroes. You would never have like rational, fine people being superheroes.
It's fucking Punisher.
But even Dan Dreiberg, nice guy or whatever, is like a fucking like neurotic mess and like a coward and stuff like that. Like you don't have well-adjusted people be superheroes. That's Moore's point in the satire. But is it satirical enough to be like, and we shouldn't emulate this? Or is Watchmen now the template for, quote, gritty superheroes?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so I think he's trying to, he's probably trying to touch on the same stuff here. Because like I said, Watchmen comes out in 85. So in this, he's definitely doing the same thing here, but he's maybe being like a little too subtle.
Yeah.
I don't think it's narratively wrong to imply that there are all these shades of gray and why vigilantism is a problem because you don't know the whole story. But when you do that and you pump the brakes too much on the guy that like molested his daughter and you don't have the room to explore that, then you kind of go like, are we like
whose fucking side are we on? Yeah.
It should be abundantly wrong that like the guy has his face melted off on the ground in an alley.
Yeah.
but it shouldn't be because we feel sad for him.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It should be
the
because that
placement
is
of context to give me.
it should be just because that is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
But in the way it's set up, especially with that narrative and like
Yep.
the photos and
Yep.
stuff, like you go like, oh, so like we're supposed to feel like sad for him,
Yes, and then with the daughter,
and then
shooting,
sad
yeah.
for the kid that she's
Yeah.
lost her dad. It's like, I think he's playing it too subtle. So if you're gonna put Vigilante as a character out there or as a series, you have to have a critical eye on it. It's got to be about, you know, and maybe the window on it is that it's less about what Vigilante himself is inspiring in others and more about like how do the quote good superheroes control what they inspire.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a theme that's covered in so many fucking books, so many goddamn Batman stories. It's not exactly new, but I think that's the only real window for Vigilante, because otherwise you end up with like Grifter, Deathstroke, where people are, God, they're so fucking cool. You go like, didn't Deathstroke like rape a kid?
Yeah,
Like, everyone's like, yeah, but we don't really think about that.
Yeah.
You know, like
It's the fucking for me it always comes down to like the punishing of fucking like
Yes.
superheroes, which is like
Punisher is supposed to be kind of satire of that too. He's psychotic.
Yeah, but everybody fucking like puts him on their trucks. and, like,
Cops fucking love him.
Yeah.
Like that's a problem.
Yep.
You know, like
This is what I mean.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like you need to fucking be more careful with your
But
writing.
interestingly, and maybe it's just because he's had to reckon with it, Moore is like one of the most vocal people that's like, you people don't fucking get it.
Yeah.
But then I think the bigger question is it their fault?
Or is it bad writing?
A little bit. I mean, I don't think it's bad writing, but I think the writing is maybe too trusting.
I don't know.
You are trusting too much that the people reading are coming at it with the level of like nuance and subtlety you are. And I think that's part of the problem. I don't think I ever want to go so far as to say Watchmen is written poorly.
No, I'm more talking about.
But
these
I
two
do think
issues.
he's too trusting, and I think that's a pattern that we have in here.
Yeah.
You know,
For me, I think it's a mistake to lay things out the way he did and expect a different result.
sure, right.
You can have all the intent in the world, but fucking like
This should be like 4 issues.
the fucking
not
what is
2.
it the road to hell is paved in good intentions,
Sure,
right?
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think like for me, I don't think it's very.
You're right. There's like too many ideas in it to be 2 issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Rick to the Parody.
Oh, this is the new Twitter, baby.
Yep. How's the Peacekeeper version compared to the comics?
I mean, the Peacekeeper version is like
Love
downright fun. Like, here's the thing: we haven't really explored that character that much. 'Cause
No.
Peacemaker season 1 is very much about Peacemaker's psychology,
Yes.
where he comes from, his trauma with his dad and stuff like that. You know, Adrian Chase in the comics, he's a DA. You know, he's on the side of the law, and then his wife and child are murdered, and it basically breaks him, and he goes vigilante. And then like I said, over the series, he kind of reckons with what he's become, what he's unleashed, all this kind of stuff. We don't get any of that in Peacemaker season 1. The one thing I will say is he's in Peacemakers, he is a psycho.
Yes.
They're very, very clear to be like anyone that just like puts on a ski mask,
Yes.
and goes around killing people like
He's a psychopath.
to be good is a psycho.
Yeah.
Especially the glee he takes in it. You know.
Yes.
I actually think he probably takes more psychotic glee in it than Adrian Chase in the comics, but you know, the comic Vigilante is also pretty brutal.
Yeah.
You know,
Is the one in the comics that close to Peacemaker?
Peacemaker does show up in the Vigilante comics. I think he actually kills one of the substitute vigilantes. Like one time Adrian like has retired or something like that. Someone else's vigilante, and I'm pretty sure Peacemaker blows him away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, so Peacemaker does make an appearance in this series.
Nice.
He is in there. Yeah.
All right. Next question from our favorite religious representative.
Ooh, Chris Chan.
That's right. Who asks, You can see in these issues many of the themes and perspective that Moore has on mainstream superhero books. But what was he trying to say with the father-daughter relationship? I mean, the thing that we were been trying to figure out.
I tried to look up if he's like talked about it in interviews or whatever. And
yeah.
Possibly if I dug much deeper, I might have found something. I didn't find anything like explicitly about that. Yeah. What is he trying to say? I think the problem is that I don't know necessarily how do I phrase this? I don't think the thing that he is proposing in this story has never happened.
No,
I'm positive that this kind of weird attachment thing to your, to the person who abused you has happened. I'm convinced. Yeah. I'm not convinced that Moore knows that much about it, and I'm not convinced that he was willing to explore it. What it is in there, I think, to do just on a very base level narratively is just reinforce that Vigilante is out of his depth because things are not as cut and dry as he wants them to be.
Yeah.
Like now, do I think that 100% works in this story? No, because that guy like he shouldn't. Vigilante shouldn't kill him in an alley.
Yes.
But do we feel bad that he's dead?
True.
You know what I mean?
But that's more of an interesting discussion.
But what I mean is that's why that's in there. That it's not just like save me, Vigilante, and then he saves her and he's the hero. It's that she's like, I don't want you to do this, and he's like, but he's bad and I kill bad.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even do it. Someone else does it, kind of in his name, and he goes, so did we do it?
Yes.
And no one's happy. Fever is like kind of fucked up by it. She's like, did I do good? And he's like, I didn't even really do anything here. And the kid is now like, I've lost my dad. And you go, but your dad is you go, he's still my dad. Like narratively, the reason that relationship is the way it is, the way we see his note about, and her defending him or whatever, is just to reinforce all of that shit about the gray area and why vigilantism is just a bad gambit because you can't know all of the angles, That's why it's in there, but it's also why it feels so throwaway because it's all just more fodder for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Without exploring those things deeper and actually having a reason to show that father-daughter relationship, it's just thrown away. But I think that's the only real tangible reason why it's in there. It's just another layer of it's not so easy as kill the bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question from Office Thon.
Ooh.
It was
Vigilante Barry.
It was emails, Barry.
Ugh, nice.
What are your thoughts on the CW's take on the Vigilante character?
Okay, so an interesting thing happened on Arrow with this one, and they did it, I think, mostly just to throw people off the scent a little bit. In season 5, you get Adrian Chase. Mm-hmm. You also get Vigilante. You also get Prometheus as a bad guy.
Oh.
But what the show did is that Adrian Chase, the DA or whatever, is actually Prometheus, the bad guy.
Of course.
And Vigilante is sort of like an anti-villain through that season, who's like a bad guy who's killing bad guys. But they throw you off that way because you're like, well, I know Adrian Chase is Vigilante.
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of a weird, like, I actually think Vigilante doesn't get enough characterization. Yeah. He's just... like bad guy killing bad guys is like fine, I guess, but the character of Adrian Chase has like a real kind of like season 5 is really good actually of Arrow, and Adrian Chase is a big part of that. Like his performance is great,
but it's not that Adrian Chase. Yeah,
but he's acting more like Prometheus, even though he has some of the elements of Adrian Chase as a character. Like it's a little bit of a weird kind of hodgepodgey thing. I think it's an excellent performance and a really like cool version of the character. But if you're going to like, you get a little bit of it, But it's slightly confusing because Adrian Chase and Vigilante are separate entities.
Yes. It's weird. In the same
And
season.
Adrian Chase is Prometheus. So you're actually getting like a weirder Prometheus.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
All right. Next question from Nameless Nerd Talk, who asks, has Vigilante appeared in Teen Titans Go? As he started out as a Teen Titans villain, seems like he'd fit pretty nicely.
He did start as a Teen Titans villain. I don't know that he'd work pretty nicely. I mean, frankly, Teen Titans Go even avoided Slade until the movie. And even then, he's barely shown up on the show. Because even then, they were like, Deathstroke? Like on Teen Titans Go? I don't know. And Deathstroke was a main villain. Slade was a main villain on
That's why they call him Slade.
On Teen Titans. But even that, like the direct transfer from Teen Titans to Go, they were like, we're not going to bring Slade.
Yeah.
For years, for seasons of that show, there's no Slade. And then he barely shows up, and it's mostly in reference to the movie. Yeah. So they weren't even willing to do that with him. Vigilante is like a step too far.
Yeah.
You know? So no, he actually hasn't been in Teen Titans Go. I don't know if that applies to the Teen Titans Go comics, because there's a lot of those. Like a lot of issues of those. But in the show, I'm positive Vigilante is
I think you could do it, but it would have to be so vague that it's like, why even have him? Like, because you would have to just be like, it's a vigilante, which is like then so vague.
Yeah, I think because you can't just have him executing people, there's not enough of a line of what's different about him. Yeah. Especially on Teen Titans Go, where there is a sort of cartoon hyper-violence that even the Teen Titans have. You know, where they beat the shit out of Dr. Light and stuff like that. So if you can't actually put someone down, but the Teen Titans are also hyper violent, like, what is the line of Vigilante? I actually think it's harder to do on Teen Titans Go than if he showed up on Teen Titans. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So no, he hasn't shown up there.
Yeah, I think like once you start pulling on the thread, like
there's probably a joke where you set it up like Vigilante is a problem, and then he goes like, "Oh Jesus!" Like at the Teen Titans methods, and he goes like, "Oh, like where you flip the script." Like I think that's funny, but that's basically the only version of that I think you can
which
do.
is like a one-off joke. Yeah. Next question comes from Question Posting.
Oh, our good friend Question Posting,
who asks
back to Question Posting as well.
Yeah.
Not Charlton or Green Hornet Posting.
That's right. Yeah.
Circled on back.
Question Posting, posting questions.
Yeah. And I will answer posting.
Do you feel these two issues are a good summation of Moore's feelings toward characters of this type? Also, fun fact, the female lead of the stories might have been the wife of John Constantine in Moore's Twilight of the Superheroes pitch.
Really? Fever? Oh, interesting. The Twilight of the Superheroes thing, I don't want to talk too much about it, but if you haven't ever read Moore's like very rambly rant pitch, it was an event that he pitched that was essentially going to be like that the heroes like retire or age out, that the younger heroes are like, it is in a lot of ways, elements of it become Kingdom Come, I would say.
Sure.
Or in some ways. I shouldn't say a lot of ways.
Was that Moore?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't think so.
But Moore pitched this thing called Twilight of the Superheroes. That was kind of an exploration of like the ideals of superheroism die.
Sure.
And that's kind of what Kingdom Come's about. Yeah. Right? So, at any rate, check out that pitch because it actually sounds like wildly interesting.
Yeah.
But it never happened. But it's pretty cool. Do I think this is a good summation of it? I think Rorschach is a better takedown of vigilantism, and Watchmen in general is obviously a better takedown of vigilantism than this. But you know, Watchmen gets 12 issues, 12 like prestige format issues to do it.
Yeah.
And this is 2 issues in the middle of a regular ongoing series. I don't know that that's a fair comparison.
Fair, yeah, but yeah.
Here's my problem. I don't think there's a strong enough condemnation of Vigilante himself. And again, it's because Moore, I think, is approaching this with too light a touch. You know, like we're talking vaguely about vigilantism, but even vigilante in this kind of comes off as like I guess everything worked out. Vigilante didn't run over the guy's face with a thing. So like you kind of come away with like, so did he have mostly heroic intent then? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he failed to like stop the guy from getting killed or whatever. But like if Vigilante ground his face into the pavement, then you'd be like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So it's an indictment of vigilantism because he's inspired Fever to this horrible thing. But is it an indictment of vigilante in the way that like Rorschach...
Sorry.
That was kind of the tone of what I was talking about, I think.
Sorry, I just accidentally clicked on something and popped up.
Musical guest!
Sorry.
That was amazing.
I hope it shows up on the mic.
That's so funny. But you know what I mean? Like Rorschach specifically. Yeah. There's an indictment of Rorschach, there's an indictment of comedian, and there's an indictment of vigilantism in Watchmen. In this book, it's mostly just an indictment of vigilantism. There's not too much pointed directly at vigilante. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like I said, those series in general kind of, does the heavy lifting, giving context and whatever to the bigger thematic story of that.
Yeah.
But this 2-issue story doesn't do a very good job of making vigilante, putting him in the position of like, what is good, what is bad, am I doing right?
It's a broad discussion of it, but not enough.
It's not specific enough.
I agree.
Yeah. So no, I don't even think it's Moore's best take on his feelings here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watchmen is, right?
It's obviously Watchmen.
Yeah.
But again, it's sort of an unfair comparison.
Yeah,
but it's it's Watchmen, obviously.
Yeah, it's or his greatest work or this 2-issue series.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right. Next question from Let's Talk Flash and Green Lantern, who asks, what do you think the story ultimately says about vigilantism? Do you think vigilante can work in the modern world?
What are your thoughts on this? I've talked a lot.
I think for me, I was getting not a clear enough of an idea of Moore's thoughts on policing in general and authority.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the police are not in this comic, by the way.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm just like, is he pro-cop? Like, and I don't know. And like, does Vigilante think that he is pro-cop?
They also put Vigilante almost in the position of cop.
Which is weird then because he's like...
Because when he's in that neighborhood, his bike gets fucking...
Yes!
Like, the wheels and shit get stolen. And he's like, in this neighborhood? Like, so it's like, are you... So like, he's not... Like, I do think there's a slight indictment of like, rich white guy thinks he's going to solve street problem things. Like,
but again, too fucking subtle.
But it's like 2 panels worth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. Is like, I'm like... how does a vigilante feel pro-cop to me? Like that's so fucking counterintuitive to me that it's like,
well, because he even's like, why didn't you just go to the DA? But like, obviously he is the but he's already outside the system.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like when we get later, like Kate Spencer, Manhunter.
Yes,
when she is operating as Manhunter and not as the DA, it's because she knows she's outside the system. When Vic Sage, the question is not. When he's doing stuff and he's not being a news reporter, like with journalistic integrity, it's because he's outside the system.
This is inherently my issue in general with these types of characters, which is like, it can't work. You can't be both a vigilante and in the law enforcement because at the end of the day, it's like you're being less effective by doing your other job. Just be a vigilante.
I mean, Daredevil? Is that how we feel about Daredevil?
I mean, Daredevil is slightly different because it's a lawyer, but like... I think still...
But that's kind of like the position a DA is.
Yeah,
more
but
of
still,
a lawyer.
I maybe even feel that way about Daredevil then. Because I think at the end of the day, it's like, well, you were just out there not fucking stopping these things from happening. Then like, if you stop, but especially like cops who are then police, who are then vigilantes. I'm just like, fucking do half the time do your job less successfly than you do if you believe in vigilantism.
I know what you're saying.
Which I don't believe in, but like I think like both are flawed in a really weird, fucked up way. But you're not drawing that correlation even when you're talking about them. So I think for me, I think that what it feels like it's ultimately saying is like that all the system is flawed. I feel like they're just like, well, vigilantism doesn't work and neither do police, so you're fucked. And
Yeah.
it's very more. It's a fucking bleak look at the system.
The real line that they draw, because theoretically you could have this argument about Batman or whatever.
Yeah.
But the line that they very clearly draw is the sort of like the reveling in the violence.
Yes.
Not even that like it's not even that like this is a world of superheroes, and some of those superheroes are just people. And Batman and that, like, he'll break into a house and he'll beat the shit out of a rapist.
Yes.
And you go, great, but then he like hands them over to the cops and they go back to prison, and you go like, hopefully they get help, I guess. And you kind of forget about it. But the difference is that here it's like, well, no, we just like kill him in an alley with a car.
Yeah, what's the difference?
That's wrong.
Yeah.
I think there's a broader kind of thing.
But I think you're right.
There is a very clear line in comic books, and I don't think it's quote unreasonable, but the line is it's not even killing. Killing is sort of put up as the thing, but like Green Arrow kills and we're mostly fine. Has killed and we're mostly fine with it. The line isn't killing, it's the revelry.
Yes.
And Vigilante is like, and I'll light up this whole fucking town if I have to.
Yeah.
And actually there's versions of Vigilante that like care less and less about the collateral damage. Like some of those, like the subs, the ones that kind of like take it up when he tries to like hang it up. Like some of them are like even more unhinged.
Yeah. I think that at the end of the day, what this is trying to say is maybe that when you look at the conversation about like it's more of asking like, what is the conversation? Is it the action that someone takes, and is that worth killing? Is it the actions that you take to kill somebody, or is it the revelry? Because it's like,
right?
It's like when you take a child rapist and you murder them brutally. It's like, well, what's the conversation here then? Is it that like he deserved it, but not like that? Because that's a weird conversation.
Yeah.
Or is it like?
Or is it there's a difference from stopping him committing more crimes and ending his life?
Yeah.
Very fair conversation.
Yeah. So it's like, is it how you do it, why you do it, or
that you did it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's, if I was giving him all of the credit in the world, like that's the conversation I think that's happening.
Right.
But because it's two fucking issues, it's like, maybe, like, I don't know. Yeah. I think that's the best I can sort of parse out.
Fair. Yeah.
All right, next question. Oh, and also, do we think that Vigilante can work in the modern world? I think we've already sort of answered that. Yeah.
I actually think he has to.
Yeah. I think you need to use him as a point of conversation.
I think he's a kind of important character to think about, because there is this sort of like fine line between you want what superheroes do good, you want them to inspire people to take individual action or collective action and stand up for what is right.
Yeah.
And then with the asterisk of like, to a point.
Yeah.
And so I think Vigilante is an important part of that conversation, theoretically.
All right, next question comes from Ethan Rutledge, who asks, with 50 regular issues and 2 annuals, Adrian Chase's story is pretty concise, especially considering he wasn't even the title character for a chunk of it.
Right.
How does Moore's 2-issue story rank in the larger tapestry of Vigilante for you guys? The best, the middle of the pack?
I mean, well executed. We haven't talked a lot about
well executed
about Jim Bakey's art.
Okay,
but it's quite good.
Yeah, it's very 80s, but
it's extremely 80s.
Yeah, but it's good.
I think it's very well done. Yeah. I think there's like a pretty good handle on like the balance between action and those kind of like posy tableau things that are in Moore scripts. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's very well done. I do think it's like more or less like from an actual words standpoint, well written.
Sure.
Do I love all of the construction of it? No, we've talked a lot about that. But I mean, I think it's relatively strong. I don't know that the writing and the art elsewhere in the series is necessarily as strong. But like I said, I think the series in general does a better job because it has more runway. That idea of like Adrian Chase, even he questions whether or not he's doing the right thing. He tries to back out of it, but he's already let the cat out of the bag. Other people start being vigilante so bad, so much worse than him, that he has to come back and be vigilante.
Yeah.
So now he actually can't stop. I think thematically that idea too is like once you kind of open that door, it's open. You don't get to just close it again.
Yep.
And he's ultimately so racked with like guilt and all these like conflict, he kills himself. Like that's the end of Adrian Chase's story. He's in Day of Judgment. You see him. He's in limbo or purgatory or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he's like a tortured kind of quote hero. I was trying to do good, but I fucked it up.
Yeah.
It's. I think that's relatively powerful, but you only get to do that with the runway of the full series. I think.
Yeah.
So, as a piece of that, I think this is actually like a relatively strong contributor to that idea, but it doesn't mostly work without the rest of the series.
Yeah,
is sort of my feeling about it.
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense. All right. Let's leave Twitter and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them. I actually think one of the sub-vigilantes was a cop. There was a female vigilante for a bit. Her name was Patty or Patricia or something.
Sure.
Pat Tracy. I might be getting that name wrong, but it was something like that.
Sure. Patty O'Houlihan.
yeah, Irish cop.
Yeah.
No, but she was a cop and tried to do both for a bit and then was like, no, I'm going to abandon policing. I'm going to go full-time vigilante.
Yes.
It's so much better out of the rules.
Yes.
And it's kind of like fucked up that like...
There's a fucking line you can draw to modern policing.
But also the crazier thing is that if you were writing that comic now, she'd go like, no, it's better to be a cop.
Yeah, there's less rules.
Because I could basically do the same thing and have a pension.
Well, and get backed up from the force.
Because I think she ultimately, when she isn't a cop, she's like funding herself by stealing money from the criminals she's taking down.
So
but it would be like easier to be a cop.
Yeah.
To be a crooked cop.
Yes.
Which is sort of fucked up.
That's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
All right. First question comes from Dem Jinkies, who asks, Does this vigilante have any relation to the cowboy one?
Right.
Or is the name just the thing? What's the story behind the share name?
Let's talk about Greg Sanders, the Golden Age vigilante.
Yeah.
So Greg Sanders is like, he's the one that you've seen with like a blue shirt, red bandana, cowboy hat, white pants.
So funny.
He's a member of the Seven Soldiers of Victory alongside Shining Knight, Green Arrow and Speedy, Star Spangled Kid, Stripesy, and Crimson Avenger. That one is he's like a kind of Old West sort of guy. He's got a guitar. He's a sort of, there's versions of him that are a little more troubadour.
Sure, yeah.
But no, there's no connection between them.
Just, it's such a fucking vague ass name. It's easy.
I do not remember there being a like, and I called myself vigilante because I love that fun cowboy.
Yeah.
Maybe someone somewhere did some bullshit with it.
Yeah.
But really, if we're being honest, there is no connection between them. Vigilante is the Greg Sanders Vigilante is a completely different character. He had like bad guys like the Dummy, like shit like that. He had a sidekick called Stuff the Chinatown Kid.
Jesus Christ.
There's also totally different though, because he wasn't like gun people down for no like he was like, I mean, he had guns and shit, but he was more like a hero.
Yeah.
A hero.
Yeah, who took down engines.
Well, no, I don't know because no. He was taking down crooks and stuff. But No, they're totally different. His name was just Vigilante. Like the Greg Sanders one didn't have this like thing of like, and I'm something darker.
Sure.
Like there's no hint of like. It was more that like it was like the. This is an insane sentence I'm about to say. I know it's insane.
Okay.
It was like the more romantic kind of frontier justice. Like he's called Vigilante because it's like sometimes you got to step up for your town. Like it was that kind of shit.
The fake kind, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like not the urban 80s like, oh, a vigilante. They had they both used the word, but one was like a vigilante.
Yeah.
Someone's finally going to stand up to the,
exactly.
There's
That's
like such a
funny.
different
That's very
cultural
funny.
context to the word.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
All right, next question from Fart Butt, who asks, this story has drugs, prostitution, murder, torture, auto theft, sexual assault.
Yeah, I mean, auto theft seems pretty weak to throw in there after all
and
those
the
other
worst
things.
auto theft. Where would you rank this among problematic DC storylines? Unfortunately, pretty like
relatively low.
Yeah. Let's not forget about Tyrock.
I mean, listen, problematic in that the people doing it seem like incapable or not incapable, but they are not capable enough of handling some of the sensitive material properly. Certainly not through the lens of people reading it in 2023. That's not, in some cases, 100% their fault. But like compared to actual problematic things where it's like, yeah, Tyrock, great example, or
fridging, like
the Alex DeWitt thing. I mean, Killing Joke. I mean, God, even just put it up against other Moore stuff.
Yeah,
I'd say the Killing Joke's more problematic than this.
Yeah,
like by a long shot. Yeah, interesting. I think it's pretty low. I don't have a Rolodex of every problematic DC story. This is less problematic, I would say, than the Judas Contract, just since we talked about Deathstroke a little bit earlier. That part of the Judas Contract with Deathstroke and Terra is like worse than this. Because this is still saying like the guy's bad.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean? Like the Deathstroke thing is so
worse.
I know he's the bad guy in that story.
Yeah.
But something about it just, I mean, maybe it's unfair to put it on the Judas Contract that people think Deathstroke is so cool.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like that one I would put higher than this, though.
Yeah.
This is just a story where I just wish they did more with it. It's not a story where I go like, oh my God, I can't believe you. You know what I mean? I'm not like offended reading this story. I just kind of wish there was a little more in it,
Totally.
That's my feeling.
Yeah. All right, let's leave Instagram and head on over to Reddit,
where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
That's right. And the one question from Reddit comes from Not I Noob Master 69.
Okay, nice.
Who asks, I just found out that Vigilante as a mantle was passed down to a new character in 2016. I assume rebirth shenanigans, but can you explain how Adrian Chase gave up the mantle?
As far as I know, and now keep in mind, the Donald Fairchild Vigilante, this is the one from 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
I have not read that series.
Oh, okay.
I don't know too much about it, but he has a slight mirror thing to Adrian Chase where he becomes Vigilante because like people close to him die. Yeah. It's his wife or his girlfriend or something like that. His family. I don't. He becomes Vigilante for that in the same way that Adrian Chase did. I have no idea if this book ties it to Adrian at all. Like the costume has like still like the blue chevron thing and stuff like that. But I truly do not know if it's at all tied to Adrian or if Adrian is actually still meant to be dead.
Huh.
Because Adrian was basically still dead. Like when Vigilante shows up in it's the late 2000s, there's a crossover story between Teen Titans and Vigilante, a new Vigilante series. That is Dorian Chase. That's Adrian's brother. Adrian's still dead, I'm pretty sure, at that point.
Okay.
So that's after Day of Judgment. That's after Infinite Crisis. That's after a bunch of things that could or could not have brought him back. Adrian just stayed dead, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I don't really know where that Rebirth kind of era series picks up, or if, if it implies that Adrian's out there as a DA still, or I haven't read it, unfortunately. But my suspicion is that it probably doesn't do much. It's probably not like a passing of the mantle. I mean, certainly not from a reading of the kind of the strength of the Adrian Chase series is that he doesn't pass on the mantle. It's that people keep taking it up, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Stop doing this.
Like, he hates it. So I can't imagine there's an actual passing of it so much as like people, where people see themselves as like Robin Hood, or like they just start like I think that's the most insidious kind of. It's an interesting theme, but it's the most insidious part of Vigilante. Is like it's so out of his control. Yeah. And they're like, well, if he can shoot crooks, I could shoot crooks. Good guy with a gun. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, talking about if you're doing it in modern era, it's the good guy with a gun shit. It's the Second Amendment kind of bullshit. That's another like lens.
1,000%.
That's the other lens for a Vigilante series. Is like is how bullshit that argument is.
I love that.
That would be another way to do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave Reddit and head over to the doc scored.
Oh, we're going to doc scored some docs.
Yeah.
Scored docs. Docs and scored.
We're going to doc score some docs.
Scored and doc scored some docs. We're going to doc score tonight.
Nice.
Bet you scored docs. Bet you doc scored nice. Bet you I could doc with a scored doc scored.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
First question from the doc scored comes from Only Just Dandon. Again. Who asks, one look has to be destroyed from existence. Cowboy or hockey pads and visor?
Right. So the cowboy look is Greg Sanders, the Golden Age Vigilante. And then the other look is, Adrian Chase is truly wearing like a balaclava and gloves and some like hockey pad kind of shit.
Yeah.
I do think that's a thing that the Peacemaker show does pretty well, is like how kind of homemade Vigilante feels.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Even Peacemaker to a certain extent, but he does have like all the tech in the helmets and that. Yeah. But like Vigilante really does feel like he was like sitting at a sewing machine. And he like made like I kind of like that in the show. So sorry, one has to go. Here's the thing. I kind of like the look of the Adrian Chase suit. Like, I think it's pretty striking. Yeah. The black with just the blue chevron, the white. I love the idea of these like psychos wearing white. Like Punisher having the big white symbol, or having like Peacemaker in white pants, or like the idea of these people that are like
constantly covered in blood.
Yeah. But they're like have the impression of themselves that they're these like that they're cleansing, or that they're, or that they're safe from it. They're like hermetically cut off from the carnage they're invoking. Yeah. I love the sort of like faux purity of that. So there's a thing I really respond to there, but the Greg Sanders costume is too good.
Yeah.
A white cowboy hat, a red bandana, blue jacket, white pants.
Sure, yeah.
Fucking cowboy boots. In the cartoon, he had that big fucking Art Deco ass motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
It looked so fucking, it looked like he fell out of that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie. You can't beat you can't beat Greg Sanders.
Absolutely.
Here, I just want to pull it up here just so I'm not the only one weighing in on this costume. I'm gonna pull it up. Like look at this guy. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. He looks amazing. I love that guy.
It's a good look.
I don't know what you call that style of shirt where it's like kind of double breasted, where it has like this image in the middle at the top. I don't know what you call that kind of cut.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Sort of feels like old military, like an old like blue coat, like blue jacket.
I'm assuming
kind of
that's
thing.
where that comes from.
Yeah, I think he's meant to feel like that, but At any rate, it's a cool ass outfit. And
Definitely.
you can't beat it.
Yeah. It's got to be that. Which means you're getting rid of Adrian Chase.
I guess, yeah.
Next question comes from Lilith, who asks, I remember reading this in an Alan Moore's DC Universe collection, and it felt noticeably different from the rest of the stories, especially next to a thing like Mogo doesn't socialize and For the Man Who Has Everything.
Right.
Do you think Father's Day lives up to the rest of Moore's one-off DC stories?
I mean, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, For the Man Who Has Everything, we've talked about it before. That story is kind of unassailable.
Yeah.
It's wild how good that story is.
It feels like this was meant to be a bigger story.
It feels like it should be.
Yes.
Do you know what my favorite like kind of Moore one-off story is? That's in that collection. That
Okay.
Alan Moore's
you have
DC
that collection.
I don't, but I've read
Sure.
it. But so in that Alan Moore's DC Universe one, there's a story called I don't even remember what it's called. I think it's only like 6 pages long. It's short.
Yeah.
But it's from Omega Men. And in it, the Spider Guild has taken over this planet.
Okay.
We're in the Vega system, which we've talked about before. The Spider Guild has taken over this planet. And there's these couple of like enormous statues, like humanoid statues. And they kind of slowly realize after like 10 years or something that the statue has moved.
Oh.
And the premise is that these are beings
Oh.
that operate on such a slow time. Like time moves different for them.
Sure.
So like a blink of an eye is 10 years. Like their blink of an eye is 10 years for the rest of us.
Oh, wow.
And it's all about the Spider Guild like losing their minds on this planet because they're like, how do they know they've been subjugated? We've taken over their planet. But like they just ignore them because no time, like almost no time is moving, and literally the Spider Guild like lose their minds. They go crazy. They try and like they're like we can hurt them. They shoot, but because time is, it's not just that they move slow; it's that time is different for them. So they don't even feel the energy blasts or anything like in the amount of time that it happens.
Oh, wow.
And like the Spider Guild, like they just start going crazy, killing themselves. This last one just like dies on the planet, and it ends with the two of them sitting. The one goes, "Oh, did you see that little? There's like a little puff there. Could have sworn I saw stuff move around there." And they go, "Nah, I wouldn't worry about it. Life's too short." And they just kind of sit there, and it's like all of the, especially in the context of Omega Men, which is all about like freedom fighting and shit like that, where it's like all these wars, all this life and death, and it's like fucking nothing.
Whoa.
I love that story. It's maybe 5 pages long.
Really?
It's a real short one. It's fucking great. And there are no main characters from Omega Men in it. It's just the Spider Guild and these like big Leviathan kind
That's
of
so fucking cool.
on whatever planet. They're on like Ogiptu or like whatever planet it is. But
That's fucking rad. I love
it's
that.
so fucking cool. That's my favorite story from those ones. I don't think this holds up to something like that. Like,
do you think this is the worst short story from him?
Here's what I'll say. I think it's unfair to say worst, but I think it's the least creative.
Sure.
What's so amazing about For the Man Who Has Everything is like the Black Mercy, the idea of like that dream realm. What do you have to give up to come back to reality? Or that Omega Men story is such a great concept. Or, Mogo doesn't socialize. This is like a ton of fun. So many of those other stories have like a more interesting hook, and maybe it's just a product of the character or something, but like this is so Moore is just doing what that series is doing anyway. He's just doing it like Moorishly.
Yeah, sure.
But that's it. He's not bringing something like brand new to Vigilante. You know what I mean? We're still talking about the same stuff.
Sure, yeah.
So I think
it just
it just feels like it's kind of like disappointing in that it's not like a more creative thing. Like it's not. We're not even exploring the DA side. We don't do like we're not really doing much with Vigilante. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think it's it's executed fine. It's just not like those other Moore stories where you're like, holy shit, who even thinks that, like,
it's not at the level of Moore's writing.
Totally not. Certainly not of his best, you know. Or whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow or like stuff like that. Like,
all right. Next question comes from JK, who asks, around this time in 1985, Alan Moore was writing these small but impactful stories we just talked about in books like Vigilante and Detective Comics. What other characters from this time period would you have liked to see more similarly approach? I mean, nothing similarly, ideally, but maybe like those other ones. Like, what other stuff is it? Like, where was that?
What else was coming out in 1985? I mean, Crisis started, but like, what other books? I'm pretty well. I don't know. Someone will correct me
on this podcast.
I don't know if Firestorm had his own title at this point or not, or if that was just post-Crisis.
Yeah.
But Firestorm might be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Again, if we give the benefit of the doubt that we get like an interesting hook or something. But I think Firestorm is a character sort of rife with potential for that kind of stuff. I think that would be fun. That'd be interesting. Might not have had a series right at that time, but around then. Yeah, Firestorm might have been cool. You want to say Captain Atom, but he did Dr. Manhattan, so
sure.
Just leave that alone, I guess.
Yeah. I'd like to see him maybe touch like Black Manta.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's a character that could use some like interesting perspectives from it, and that.
I mean, back then, Manta didn't have too much inner life back then. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's not really like, it's funny. I mean, it's also hard to kind of separate like
what he's done.
I'd be fascinated to see these things, but there'd also be the lens of like, would I still fully enjoy Moore having done that? I'm trying to like take the 2023 of it.
I know.
Out.
I know.
That's tricky for me
Moore
too.
in his prime, actually doing his prime, like
maybe Martian Manhunter.
Oh yeah, I would like
something
that.
a little more introspective, like treat it a little bit more like Swamp Thing. I like that. More kind of psychological, sophisticated sort of story.
Totally.
I think Martian Manhunter might have been neat, but I mean, he totally didn't have his own series. But if it was a backup in Detective or something like that, that might have been a cool, neat one.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to the next question then. From the Multi Sanchez, who asks, fuck, marry, kill, comic book vigilante.
Okay.
Peacemaker vigilante.
Okay.
CW Arrow vigilante.
Well, just to be clear about this.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Adrian Chase across these.
Sure. Yeah.
So the Arrow one, Adrian Chase, is actually Prometheus, not vigilante. And then you'd have, the Peacemaker one, you'd have Adrian Chase, vigilante from the comics. Fuck, marry, kill. I think you. Actually, this is harder than I want it to be.
I've got it.
You've got it. All right, let's have yours.
I say that we're talking about Adrian Chase. So in the CW, this is the Prometheus, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I fuck CW Arrow vigilante.
He's pretty hot.
Yeah. I marry Peacemaker because he's kind of sweet.
I was almost leaning that. And I was like, does that make me broken?
Sweetie.
I don't know how to read that at
all. And you
that could mean so many things.
Kill comic book vigilante.
Interesting. I think you fuck comic book vigilante.
Whoa, why?
Well, because he's complicated, but he'll eventually kill himself.
Like all good lovers.
Jesus. Yikes. Holy shit. Can't believe that was your Tinder bio.
Yeah.
I think you marry the CW one.
Okay.
He had a bit more of a like this. The Peacemaker one is too unhinged. I think you got to kill him.
Really? Oh, I like.
He's fun. Like I know where you were coming from, but I think he's too crazy. The CW one, if you could get him to marry you, like if you were in that position, you're fucking safe. Everyone else is fucked.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Fair. That's not wrong.
But the one from Peacemaker is like, that's not a given.
That's fair.
Yeah,
you're not wrong. All right. Last question.
Okay.
From Mullet Overlord, who asks, Can you explain how this is a new Teen Titans spinoff and whether you think it tonally matches that series?
Yeah, I mean, it's technically spun off from that. Vigilante, Adrian Chase showed up in Teen Titans comics first.
Yeah.
So it's a character that appeared there and then got their own book. Ergo was spun off.
Sure.
I actually think that the tone of those books is closer than maybe people want to believe it is. The new Teen Titans has like a pretty healthy dose of cynicism and grit and shit like that. I mean, we just talked about Judas Contract. It's certainly not the only example of that. You know, we talk about when we learn about Starfire. You know, Starfire and Blackfire are taken and tortured by the Citadel and stuff like that. Like everything, you know, all the Trigon shit is like pretty grim. You know, the stuff, you know, with the Azeroth and all that kind of like. We're not like avoiding a sort of darker. Yeah. I think the thing with the new Teen Titans is that they do have these kind of more complicated pasts than the like gee golly sidekicks from the old Teen Titans, right? You know, Cyborg has his like man machine thing, and so I actually think the tone of those books is closer than you might want to believe they are. Obviously, Vigilante is like more violent, but there wasn't not violence in the new Teen Titans. They weren't the ones doing it, you know, because it's the villains. But like, I think tonally, actually, those books are a lot closer. And Marv Wolfman is the editor, on Vigilante. You know, so there's still an element of sort of creative consistency, more or less, across those books. So they're not like out. It's not like the difference between reading Flash in Flash comics and reading Flash in Justice League, you know, which is always a thing of like, oh, okay, we're doing something different here. You know, like it's not like that. Or it's not like the difference between reading like Batman in Detective Comics right now versus Batman in Mark Waid's World's Finest.
Sure, yeah.
Those are tonally very different books. They're going after something different, but they're very different. These aren't. They're very... Now we're just following this character, but it's the same kind of mode, you know?
Totally. All right. Well, that was the last question.
Holy shit.
That was Vigilante. A character we haven't really talked about that much.
No, pretty interesting. Good. I mean, good pick, I would say.
Yep.
You know, complicated feelings about it, perhaps, but good pick. I was worried at first that what you were picking was just like all
chaos,
chaos, or all bad, or whatever. And I think this year's going better than I expected.
Well, we'll see what happens with next week's episode, which you can ask questions for.
Yeah, so next week we are reading Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 106. Not to give too much away, but this is an infamous issue of Lois Lane.
Absolutely.
It's the one where she decides to be black for a day.
Yep.
I don't think we're equipped for this episode.
What possibly?
But it's happening. So send your questions.
It's happening.
Yep.
You can send those to our various social media platforms like our Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast,
our Twitter,
at Dr. DC,
our Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast,
our email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
Jump on our subreddit,
r/Dr_DC.
The doc phone is open, I think.
208-917-3238.
It's 208-917-DCEU.
If you're nasty.
Sometimes I even check it. We're you can follow us on TikTok. We're not
Jesus.
Well,
Dr. DC.
Because we're not like producing content to like engage with.
No.
But if you want to like,
I'm just sitting there, dick in hand.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to produce content that the doctor might enjoy, if you want to chop some wood or something,
yeah. You chopping wood or
lifting
weights.
Are
you that like Peloton trainer?
Oh my god! Yeah, I definitely haven't sent you any of that. I'm glad we haven't even talked about that yet. Actually, it's better to be unsaid.
Do you know what's funny?
Yeah,
you know, we send each other videos a lot. I don't know if this is your experience on your end, but by the time when I go on, I just scroll my page first, and then I see what you've sent me.
Yeah.
By the time I do that, I've basically seen all of them.
I know.
Like It's so curated now.
Oh my God, our
that, like,
feeds are syncing up.
Anything you send me, it's like, I've seen this. I'd say 9 out of 10.
You know what bad habit I have of doing is watching a video you sent me
And then sending it to me immediately.
sending it to you.
I've done that to you a couple times too, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, this is great. You should see this.
My favorite is when it happens like back to back. Like,
Yes.
I sent it to you, and then I was like, oh, Richard sent me something. It's the same.
I know. I sent it to myself, basically.
I love that. Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah.
So
we're there.
Yeah. We have a website.
DrDCPodcast.com or .ca.
Why don't you give us a 5-star review and we will read it on a future episode of the
baby.
show. We all month long, not only are we doing DC comics that I'm selecting, but we are also reading through some indie stuff.
Yeah, some non-DC stuff.
That's right.
On the Patreon this week, we'll be talking about the first volume, possibly the only volume, of 8 Billion Genies.
I don't even know if the volume's actually complete.
It's actually not.
Yeah, because there's one issue left.
Issue 8's not out, which is such like a fucking blue ball.
Yeah. But it came out like last year. Like, get it out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, we're doing that all week long or all month long on the Patreon.
It's Prescribed Reid-ing Month.
That's correct. A thing that I said to somebody, and I've been saying it to them like all month, and I said it today, and they were like, "Oh, I get it."
Wait, who?
I'm not gonna. Somebody.
Go on, tell me.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
We can air this now.
It was a very cute moment, though.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So subscribe to our Patreon. Not only are you going to get extra content from the Doctor and I, but also the Doctor's got another podcast.
Yeah, I mean, there's a $1, $5, $7 level.
Yeah.
They all give you access to the Doc Score. Like Richard said, at the higher level, at the $5 level, you get the double dose, which this month is all sorts of cool indie readings.
Yep.
At the highest level, at the Golden Age level, you can get access to a bunch of exclusive stuff, including Toretto Talks, my current series with my sister, where we're going through every Fast and Furious installment in the lead up to Fast X. This week is Fast and Furious 6.
You know what's funny?
That's basically the reaction for that one. Truly, though, we're all about getting to Furious 7.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
What?
Theoretically, if you and I were ever in a position where we're like, how do we possibly ever find a thing to do for this week's double? Well, a situation we've never obviously been in.
No, that has never happened. I can't imagine that.
You know, the thing that never comes up between the two of us?
Oh?
It's like, what if we just like read a comic and talked about it?
That's Prescribed Reid-ing Month.
Isn't that so funny? Like, we could just choose like an indie book or
No.
No. Like,
no. What we should do is like talk about whether or not I've tried to trade your dick pic for a picture I took of my shit. That's way better to do.
Why did that just occur to me?
That's really funny. Hey, it's because it's sequestered in its month. Just like Eat Gist is sequestered in its
month.
month.
You're gonna fucking do food content in fucking January?
Do you know how stupid you sound
you
right
dumb
now?
Fuck.
Anyway, support us on Patreon.
And also, we've got another podcast.
Yeah, Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We talk real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show. We're in season 7 right now. 7 of 15, so strap in.
And that is it for this week.
And remember, like I always say,
a dick pic's worth the shit pic.
A dick pic is worth a shit pic. Adios.
Ciao.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.